Welcome to MELfeed.video. We are commencing a live web stream service via youtube.com from Echuca, Australia. We currently conduct these streams on Wednesday evenings with other times to be added as more opportunities arise. Please visit our website at MELfeed.video for further information. This web video project presents old and new community TV programs. Please enjoy your stay with MELfeed.video.
Welcome to NAT Chat. My name is Paul Spanos, and today we have the topic of community banking. And with us we have George Prodromidis, who is the branch manager at East Malvern area in Melbourne. George, welcome.
Thank you.
And today the topic is community banking, and we need to sort of say to the audience what community banking is. I'm not sure if they know.
Yep. Well, thanks, Paul. Just to give you a bit of history, if you like, community banking was formed some 16 years ago when the majors were pulling out of small towns. And it was the key leaders within those communities that approached the bank in that stage and asked, how do we get banking back into our community strips, if you like.
Okay. That means it started mainly from the country areas?
It certainly did, yes.
Oh, okay.
Minyip was the town it really started from 16 years ago.
That would be a bit of a comforting thinking that they've got their own bank in the country, isn't it?
From a community perspective, yes, it does, because the way it's formed, you've got your local businesses, your local mums and dads who pledge money and put up shares within that individual branch. Okay. And then once it passes its feasibility studies and prospectuses and so forth, there's criteria that needs to be met. Once that criteria is met, then a community branch is formed.
That means what you're saying to me is that I can be part of the shareholders of the bank straight away.
Shareholders of that local community branch?
Of the local community branch.
Absolutely. So some 16 years ago we're talking about this started. Today, 16 years on, we have in excess of 305 community branches, all individual branches, individual boards, directors and staff that work in their own little community catchments operating under the licensing of Bendigo Bank.
And as a community bank, it looks like the concept really grew quite fast. If we're talking about the last 16 years, starting live, and today, how many branches we've got?
305 community branches.
That is throughout Australia?
Throughout Australia.
That is quite extraordinary.
It is, considering that it was a new concept to start with. Yes. So the first 4 to 5 years, that was a slow incline.
Yes.
Off memory, I believe in the last 5 years we've been growing something like 20 to 30 branches every year. So it's been in the last 6 to 7 years that we've had that nice steep incline.
Okay.
And it is from there that we managed to generate profits once the community branches become profitable to invest back into our own local communities. Okay,
that means if I'm a part of if I embrace that concept as a local community, and we're talking about community banking, what is it that comes back to me?
What comes back to you as a local, whether you're a business person or just your mum and dad within the community, you're guaranteed to have your banking. You don't need to move out of town to try and do your day-to-day banking. Okay. Businesses don't need to move out. What we found in the smaller towns, when the major banks started to pull out, the towns were depleting. They lost the bank, they lost the news agency, they lost their local medical centres, and the towns were starting to die. What we've noticed, and history has shown, when a community bank tends to go back into those local little community strips, businesses start to come back in. So what we're really doing essentially is we're retaining capital back within that own community for that community to flourish.
And that is amazing. And only Bendigo Bank has that
Yeah, look, I've been in banking 30 years.
Okay.
The last 13 of those, I've been in community banking.
Okay.
And I must admit, I have not seen any model like this, be it Australia or worldwide, that this particular model, 80% of our profits generated goes back into our local community.
Okay.
The remaining 20 is what's distributed back to our local shareholders who put their hand up to try and get the bank running in the form of dividends. Okay,
that means as a shareholder or something in the bank, I've got part of the dividend, but at the same time you say 80% back to the community. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yep.
What is it that comes back, in what form?
What comes back to, now you may be involved with the local school in some way.
Yes.
You might need to upgrade some sort of a facility.
Yes.
The community bank within its local catchment area will contribute some form of funding, whether it be sponsorship or a grant, back to that. Now we sponsor a lot of, you're talking sporting groups, you're talking schools, not-for-profit charities and things like that. In one way or another, we would touch every person that lives in that community. Now you might have your kids going to, or your kids might be going to creche.
Okay.
Now all of a sudden we will do something to help that creche out. It might be putting in air conditioners in the rooms.
Okay.
So you're contributing with your banking is helping us contribute our profits back to that group, even though you may not have a direct link, but it's your grandkids that are benefiting.
Now that is a great motivation for the community to get involved with this branch, isn't it? And we're going to talk a little bit later in relation to the process of this. But at the moment, generically, I would say how happy the shareholders are so far. Looks like, 305 branches in 16 years is a very, very big result. But from the community perspective, what is the feedback that you sense you've got?
I guess from my point of view, and I can only speak locally because I'm at East Melbourne, the sense that I would get from our local community, our local catchment area, initially when the customers pledged their funds, it was there as a pledge to say, we just want a bank back here. And it wasn't a question of getting a return.
Yes.
So for the first 4 to 5 years, you're generally just trying to replenish that capital that was outlaid first. And then you start to go into profit mode. And then when dividends are being issued, the shareholders are delighted, thinking we didn't expect to be getting a dividend.
There you go.
But it's great that we are. It's great what we're doing in the community.
Thank you, George. We're going to come back after this short break. Thank you for staying with us.
Hi, I'm Darren McElwain from Air FM Drive. You can tune into my show from 3 to 6 p.m. on 88.0 in Penrith and also on tunein.com. And apparently, we don't throw rocks. Air FM Drive.
We reckon one of the most powerful things in the world is this sausage. Because a sausage can do just about anything. It helps people to walk, see and hear, supports families after fire, drought and flood, and even helps plant trees in our community. Our sausages are working to cure cancer, helping farmers in tough times, and connecting people who are new to a community. And at the same time that they're doing all that, they're nurturing the leaders of tomorrow while building friendships that last a lifetime. Yep, these humble sausages are more powerful than you can believe. They're working wonders in our community. And at Lions, so can you. Lions Australia, we serve more than sausages.
Here is some brilliant news for adults who have difficulties with spelling, reading a newspaper or phone bill, or writing letters and emails. It can be easier to improve your reading and writing skills than to keep putting it off. Take the plunge. Call the Reading Writing Hotline 1300 655506.
1300 655506.
It could change your life.
Welcome back to NAT Chat, and we continue the interview with George Prodromidis, the bank manager at East Melbourne with Bendigo Bank, the community bank. We did speak about the community bank, and you mentioned to us about the profits that come up. But I would like to go a little bit back, and I can say we can hear the big banks that they have huge profits and all of that. Now, with the community bank, you mentioned that we pledge to the community bank. How that pledging works, for example, in financial terms, you go to East Melbourne. If I go and move to East Melbourne, and I'm a small business person, a hairdresser or something, or I have a coffee shop in there, what would be your approach to explain to me in relation to how community bank can benefit me and the community?
Okay. In simple terms, from a small business, if you like,
yes.
As I explained earlier, if there isn't a bank within the shopping strip,
yes,
the local strip tends to deplete and moves away. Now, I guess as a small business owner,
yes,
you would want a flourishing shopping strip.
Correct.
If it's not flourishing, your business doesn't flourish.
Correct.
So that is one small term in relation to that. As far as your banking and that is concerned, from a community bank's perspective, for the 13 years that I've been involved with community banking, it's been Bendigo prides itself on the level of service.
Okay.
And I can certainly say that for myself as well.
Yes. That means I come to you as a customer, as a normal bank customer, okay, with my checkbooks, accounts, or whatever. Then, but the benefit to the community is from being part of the shareholders of the bank, isn't it? So, you as a manager, you take the money as part of my pledge on this, and is it in shares that one? You give me a part of ownership of the branch?
Yes.
How that's
so there's two sides to this. One is when a community bank actually first opens up, there is criteria that needs to be met, as I said earlier. And part of that criteria is, and it'll vary from community bank to community bank, you've got to look at raising roughly $470,000 plus dollars, or that's what it was when we first started.
From the local community?
From the local community with a minimum shareholder number of $250.
Okay.
So that's a pledge that your mum and dad or your business will put up or put on the line.
And $250 is one share?
250 shareholders.
Shareholders, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And each individual shareholder might decide, I only want to put $500 or $10,000. They do tend to vary.
Okay.
Once that criteria is met, the capital that's raised helps establish the community branch. So you'll get the doors opened, you'll get the furniture put in, you'll employ the staff, hopefully at the local level. So that's where we retain capital within the community.
I mean, the locals own that branch?
Absolutely.
Okay.
With that, and that's the key, not only do you become a shareholder, but we would certainly love for that shareholder to also now become a customer. And it's when they're a customer, now this is where your whole world opens up here, is as a customer now, I don't know of anyone who hasn't got a bank account. So those that are at a local level, if they do their banking locally, the profits we generate from that is what then goes back into, could be in our own shopping strip, back into the schools, as I mentioned, or the kinders, and that's where we put our funding back in. So without the local community's banking or their support in banking with us, we can't do what we do in the community. So we definitely need the local community to bank with us.
That means there is an extra motivation for the local community to be involved into their own banking branch. That banking branch in itself operates in a way that gives back to the community, to the local community.
Correct, absolutely.
And that is back part of the charter of the local branch, isn't it? To support the local community.
That's part of our franchise, yes.
Okay, that is quite pioneering. How does this come up came up as an idea 16 years ago? What really triggered that idea? It's really a pioneering idea.
It is a very pioneering idea.
Yeah.
It did start off with our ex-managing director, Rob Hunt, who got together with the Repugnant Minyip Community Branch. And it literally was, as it's explained to us over the years, it was just over a coffee table, over a piece of paper. Well, this is how we think it could work. It has evolved over the years, and things have become more formalised, and this is how the model could work and how it should work. But yeah, it's a far cry from where it first started 16 years ago.
Look at that. That has been really a good journey, I suppose. And having said that, that started from the country areas to the city areas now. We have Bendigo Bank across the cities. What is, from customers' perspective, do you see a lot of appeal within the local community in the cities as well?
The demand is somewhat different in a city as opposed to country towns. And the reason I say that, in a country town, you know where your boundary is. In a city, there's overlapping boundaries. You know, within a 2 kilometre radius, you might have another community branch, which is separate again. So defining where your community grounds are is somewhat difficult. In an inner city area, there is a lot more, as if I could say, wealth. So identifying a need that the community needs sometimes is a little bit more difficult. Or a project that we could invest in to the local community. Whereas a country town, it's a lot easier to identify.
That's right, because you have the central town, and then you have the small sort of area towns. But that means the benefits and the rewards for the branch, it is exclusive from the defined area.
Yes.
It is a defined area.
It is a defined area, Paul, in the sense of where the community branch puts its funds into. It doesn't stop, however, customers outside of the catchment area, for example, wanting to bank with that local community.
But the bank doesn't have any problem of me being customer, for example, and I live in Thornbury or Doncaster areas, or for example, the network, the banking network, is not disturbed. Because of the community identity of the branch.
Correct. No. It's not.
Okay. So there is any obstacle between collaboration of the branches?
No, there isn't. And at the end of the day, the business grows depending on the manager in that branch. Okay. So if I've got customers that live out Pakenham, Berwick, Hallam Way, you're talking a 60-kilometre distance away from where I am. They want a banking relationship. So they will bank with me. That's irrelevant where they are. The profit we do generate, however, it's as far as the board is concerned, will stay local within our catchment area.
Thank you, George. And we're going to continue in a few moments. Please stay with us.
Locals here made the shocking discovery this morning. Police have sealed off the entire beach.
There is a killer. One of the worst killers in Australia. Skin cancer. Every year, skin cancer kills over 1,700 Australians. Don't be a victim. This summer, protect yourself against skin cancer.
1 in 5 of us are affected.
10% of us will have at least one.
And the numbers double for Indigenous Australians.
Just as quick as a click of your fingers, it can happen to anyone at any time.
What would you do if someone close to you was having a seizure?
Imagine if it was your child.
My brother has it. My sister has it.
I have it.
I have it too.
You're not alone.
You're not different.
And you have a bright future ahead of you.
So click for kids.
I'm Amy Lee, and I'm part of it.
It's always been my dream to represent Australia in the Olympics. Epilepsy affects nearly 250,000 Australians. Like me, most people have their seizures controlled with medication. Even today, people with epilepsy face incredible discrimination, but this prejudice is just another obstacle we can overcome. We're just as capable as anyone else, and often we have to be stronger. I promise I'll do my best for Australia. Will you do your best for me?
Welcome back to NAT Chat, and we continue our conversation about community banking with George Prodromidis from East Melbourne branch of Bendigo Bank. George, let's go into a different angle of the community banking. How do you know what project to help in the local community as a local branch?
What we tend to do with the local branches or the community banks, if you like, we have what we call Good for Community, Good for Business, and it's a forum that we run.
Okay.
And we'll put on a night, and we'll call in all the key leaders within the community, and we'll sit around a table. And there could be 20, 30 of us around a table discussing ideas. And what we will do is collaborate all that information and pick up 2 or 3 common themes that might be going around. And part of it,
talking about leaders, talking about business leaders or sporting activities leaders or whatever it is from the community.
Leaders within the community itself. Right. They're the ones that are more connected than what we are.
Yes.
And it's those sort of people that get to hear from their families within the group that they're involved with, what's the need. And the need might be, we need to do more with education, we need to do more with the elderly. Whatever that common theme is that comes out, we will try to pick 2 or 3 of those items and then put it back out to the community and say, this is what we would like to run with, how do you feel? And then we look at getting buy-in from the community in that respect to try and put those projects out there. And we would put the initial pledging.
And that is quite a smart idea, because you can identify what projects really are needed in the community that would have more impact to the community, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. That is even as a marketing tool, it's an excellent idea. So you can really pick and choose exactly what is needed over there and appreciate it. And do you think you have enough support from the local business as well?
Look, I would love more support, clearly.
All right.
We're in an environment at the moment where rates are very low.
Yes.
There are people that will continue to shop. And our existing managing director, Mike Hurst, he's got a great saying: if we're going to compete on rate, it's a race to the bottom of the pool. Okay, we're consistent with our rates.
Yes.
We're certainly not the cheapest in the market because we provide a great level of service.
Yes.
So from that perspective, I'd like to think that we're not out there to chase rates. We're out there to provide a service, a good product that our customers require, and they trust us. And from that perspective, we've got a great brand. The surveys all say we have a great brand. Customers appreciate and like us, and they want to do more business with us. And that's right. The customers telling us that.
That's right. And on can you give us a little bit of the size in dollars and cents, if you like, and how that help back to the community, how the community has felt so far, and the size in dollars, a little bit of statistics.
Okay. As a whole, as I said, the community bank's been running for some 16 years. It's in that period of time, and I'm talking Australia-wide now, the community banks have given in excess of $102 million back to the community.
All right.
This financial year just gone, we've given back 20 million, which was Australia-wide. So in the last 5-6 years, that's had an exceptional growth level because most community branches are now becoming more profitable. So in the years to come, that figure's just going to grow. I think it was 3 years ago, we were sitting at about 60 million. So that figure's really just sort of started to creep up. At a local level, from the East Melbourne perspective, we've been running some 14 years. We've given back $2.6 million back to the local community.
Very good indeed, yeah.
And I've just got a couple of statistics, if you don't mind.
Yep.
But just to give you an idea as to where that funding has gone to. But for example, the sporting clubs, be it your football club, tennis clubs and so forth, we've given back $1.3 million. Education to the schools, the kinders, disadvantaged organisations is $450,000. Community groups, which vary from cystic fibrosis or camp quality, Royal District Nursing and so forth, has had $700,000. And the other one that we do at a local level, because the board feel every community branch should have the opportunity to do exactly like what we do. In those situations, we've also given, for example, to the Charlton community branch when they had the floods that went through there, and Numurkah when, again, the cyclones and all that went through there. In those special situations, we would still give out funding which is outside our catchment area, and that was in excess of 150,000 we had given out, because we want to see our partners succeed in it as well.
Gee, that is amazing. I like, because your charter in itself contains that collaboration with the community and feeding the community back from what the community has given you in the first place, the trust doing business with you. If I can touch the last question, what is your collaboration with the government bodies? Is there any sort of collaboration with that? Do you find any support in that?
There certainly is, and it'll vary from community bank to community bank. If we touched back on the first point, which was the good for community, good for business, where we seek to get something up and running. And I'll use an example where you might need lights for your sporting ground. Okay, and that was one of the needs that was identified. The reason being is it's not one club that uses it. There might be 4 different groups that use that one facility. Now, all of a sudden, council might decide, for whatever reason, it's only 1 or 2 people that keep talking about the light, not interested. As a community bank, we're seen as the hub, if you like, and people come to us. And once they come to us and say, look, we've got a need here, like it's been identified, we need to have lights. We might start the initial pledge and say, well, okay, we'll put $10,000 on the table. You guys within the community group who use the facility, if you can put $10,000 on the table, that makes it $20,000. All of a sudden, you've got the buy-in by community. We go to council and say, there's $20,000 on the table here. We need these lighting facilities. What tends to happen, and if we work it well enough, we do sit around table with council, and we do have state and federal governments involved as well to get these bigger projects off the ground. So yes, there is collaboration.
Gee, George, I like that concept, because you work as a link between business, government bodies and the community. All of them inclusive to collaborate together to support the community. And George, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you very much.
And to the audience, thank you for watching us, the NAT Chat, and we'll see you next time, next week, same time.
Imagine not seeing the world you live in. Macular disease is Australia's leading cause of blindness. Donate now to Macular Disease Foundation Australia. Call 1800 111 709 or visit mdfoundation.com.au.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Welcome to Migration Stories, and we are produced by Northern Access TV. It's a series part of NAT Chat, and today I'm very happy to have with me Omar Perez, who migrated here from Pakistan.
Pakistan, yes.
And he will also be playing some musical instruments and some fantastic music. We'll come across to that a little bit later in the program.
Thanks for that.
But it really is your passion, isn't it, music?
Yes, it is. Yes, I've been playing for a long time. Started playing pretty much in high school.
Right.
And started forming bands. This is early on when, you know, the situation in Pakistan was changing slowly. And
yes.
Started having more music, more art-related activities. It wasn't like that always.
Well, you're young, so that's not that long ago.
Yeah, not that long ago. Yeah, it is.
And I've heard that there's actually hard rock and, you know, hard rock and heavy metal bands in Pakistan.
You wouldn't believe it.
Really?
You wouldn't believe it. There's some friends of mine. They've got a band called Kayas. I really enjoyed their music, and they won Asian category awards, like the best rock band in Asia. And yeah, they've gone to India. They've performed. Yeah, they're from Pakistan. They're from my city. They're from Islamabad. One of the guys, the founder, the guitar player, is my schoolmate from. I mean, we started together pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah, he taught me a few things, and then we were like we were learning off each other because we didn't have any music schools in Pakistan.
Well, we'll come to the music, and well, we're going to come to actually some live music on this show, so absolutely stick around. But yes, it was very different in Pakistan earlier. So what was it like as a youngster there growing up? What was happening around you?
The sad bit is, like, now that you know about it when you're outside of the country, and also when you grow up and you see a change and then you realize that this wasn't the way it was before. I was born in the General Zia era, which is a dictatorship, and General Zia was supporting the Afghan war, and there was a lot of, they called it Islamization, making all the laws and all the rules and regulations according to the Sharia, but it was just actually, and everybody agrees on it basically now pretty much, is that it was just him trying to justify his dictatorship. So he was empowering himself using the pseudo or false pretext of Islam, and yeah, we've been seeing the consequences of that in the past few years. It's what happens is once you provide that sort of cover for a lot of groups.
He brought out a more even, forceful regime.
Exactly. He was kind of
using the religion to bring out something a little bit more sinister then, perhaps.
And that sinister mentality is something we haven't been able to get rid of till now. I mean, we're a democracy. We've transitioned from democracy to democracy now.
Yes.
But just the fact that you're electing a parliament and doing democracy and that sort of practice doesn't get rid of all the problems that are created by a long dictatorship. And
absolutely, yes.
That mentality is still there. Yep. That supremacy of your belief system and imposing it on other people is still there. And
it happened at all levels, like the local council sort of area, and the sort of in the military and
the hand-picked people were appointed to all these bodies.
Yes.
So that makes it easy for a dictator to work. So that mindset is something that the governments that are democratically elected, they also end up following now. It just makes it convenient for them to keep their man on, the tax watch or something. Indeed. They're not going to catch anybody.
Indeed.
So that affected the arts really badly, coming back to music and the arts.
Did it?
Yeah, because once you don't have people who are actually, they don't...
Free enough to express themselves.
And also people who are not really related to that field. They're coming out and they're heading departments that are art or music related. They can't really nurture new artists, can they? Because they don't know anything about it.
Well, getting back to that, you were in a family, you had your family there in Pakistan. Yeah. When did you start thinking, or did your father or parents start thinking about migrating to Australia?
Yeah, because we were never into, a lot of people, my class fellows and people who were graduating with me in Pakistan after studies, they were thinking of moving to, like, immigrating to Canada, US, UK, or Australia.
One of those countries.
One of those developing, really well-developed countries with lots of opportunities. I was never one of them. I was working in the media area and multimedia as well. I was working with a channel, one of the biggest channels in Pakistan, news channel, and I was also doing a lot of multimedia work from my past experience, which is websites, graphics, digital graphics and that sort of stuff. Yeah, it was later. I mean, we just had applied out of, let's just apply. There's a couple of people who were applying.
You wanted something and you thought you'd apply.
We thought it would be a good idea to have an option, sort of, literally. It was like, let's have an option of.
So what happened then? But you were successful, and
we got it was a pretty smooth process for us, and we got the whole immigration thing cleared out pretty quickly. Minor hitch, because I'd moved jobs. I was, the investigation kind of found. Somebody told them that I haven't worked at a place that I'd mentioned as my work experience.
Oh, I see.
Because I'd moved from there, and the people who were there now didn't know me. Well, that was a minor hitch, but I cleared it out, and the authorities were really nice. It was just a few emails, and that was good enough. And then I was like, we visited Sydney, we went back, and then an incident happened that I think I told you about it on the phone as well.
What incident?
Nothing had happened that had kind of caused us to, as I told you before, think of moving overseas permanently or definitely making that decision. My son got kidnapped.
Oh my goodness!
He was taken for 5 days for ransom.
Yes, that's terrible.
And
unbelievable.
Yeah, and that was a very scary. I mean, that's like one of those parts of my life. And my family, my wife and everybody else, the extended family as well, that we kind of blocked out.
Yes.
It's that painful.
Look, we'll have to come back after the break and find out how you resolved that terrible situation. Thank you. Please come back after the break and find out a bit more from Omar about his amazing story.
Australians have recycled enough printer cartridges to cover Bondi Beach 12 times. That's kept 11,000 tonnes of valuable resources out of landfill. Drop your used original cartridges into the special boxes at participating retail outlets, and they'll be turned into new products, from pens to road surfaces. Help us keep up the good work. Find out more at cartridges.planetarth.org.
I was in my 40s when I was first diagnosed with bowel cancer. George, my son, was 6 years old at that time. These days, like people of his age, he's very busy, but he still needs to find the time to get to know his bowel cancer risk. Is that right, George?
Yes, Dad. Bowel cancer affects 1 in 12 Australians, young and old, and is our second biggest cancer killer. But if caught early, bowel cancer is treatable and beatable. My dad is living proof of that. So get to know your bowel cancer risk. Talk to your pharmacist or GP about screening. Protect yourself and the ones you love. Go to lovemyfamily.org.au.
Behind every great athlete, there is a great support network. Australian Athletes with a Disability and Wheelchair Sports Australia help athletes realise their full potential.
Gonna go from 3, yes!
No matter their ability, we're there to support them. Sporting opportunities for all abilities. For more information, visit sports.org.au.
Welcome back to Migration Stories. I'm here with Omar, and your son was kidnapped in Lahore, which is actually quite a peaceful town.
Yes, it is, and it's been like that. It's actually the arts and culture sort of hub of Pakistan.
And was this maybe because you're seen as sort of a better off, educated and, employed and wealthy person, or why would this have happened?
It was really strange because kidnapping for ransom has increased since we moved here, and it has increased dramatically in some of the safer towns as well. But it wasn't as common at that time.
No.
But we were unlucky.
You were. So how did it resolve?
I had to go out and kind of follow.
Negotiate,
they would call,
negotiate, do your own investigation.
They had to call.
Really?
They would call and they would set up a time to meet, and I had to go every night, almost non-stop for 5 nights.
And what were you petrified to inform the police, or?
We got the police involved.
Yeah,
because one of our neighbors was a police.
This is terrible.
It took 5 days to resolve, and they would call, and I mean, it was like a movie. Literally, it was like getting calls and then following their leads, and then them telling us no, go back or something.
Right, I see. Mind games.
Yeah, it was
terrorizing.
It was pretty traumatic.
So eventually, what you had to hand over some money and
we paid them a big amount and
I'm so sorry that happened to you. That's terrible.
Yeah, it was a pretty dark sort of time.
I guess you're pretty keen to come to Australia after that.
Yeah, we were like, okay, we've got immigration, we've got bad, security situation in Pakistan. It's happened to us. It's hit home.
Yes.
When it's happening around you,
wow.
Maybe it doesn't hit home that much. When other people are getting affected. When it's your family, when your kid is affected by it, you don't want to put up with it anymore. So
you came to Melbourne.
Yes, we moved very quickly to Melbourne. Yeah.
And so, just very quickly, well, what happened then? You employed, or you went to study, or you brought your family over? You had your whole family over?
Actually, my wife and my kids moved before me because I was still under a contract. I was working at the television channel I mentioned. Then I joined them later and started looking for work, teaching at one of the institutes. And
excellent.
That sort of stuff, and trying to find
my way around. So hopefully everything's pretty beautiful now, and you have new aspirations now to develop your musical career.
Look, it's been amazing. It's been a bit of a struggle early on when you lose your whole network of people. Even if it's a country where that doesn't really encourage arts and music, you end up developing a following there. And when I moved to Australia, I felt that I'd completely cut myself off from the people that knew I played music or would come to my gigs or stuff like that. And then I had to work my way up slowly. Started with, I was like, where do we go? I was like, let's go busk in the city. So I got a busker's permit, and I'm doing a music video that's actually kind of a story about my experience of learning the ropes around Melbourne.
Okay.
Music-wise. There's other stuff as well, but that's something I'm doing.
Now, which instruments do you play? Because, well, I see 3 or 4 types of instruments here. What's this here then?
The percussion. Okay. This is a really cool instrument. I like it a lot. It's a clay pot, and it's called a ghada. It's a ethnic Pakistani instrument from the obviously rural areas, because it's used to carry water as well. You can see it's hollow.
Beautiful.
And also, when you're done with the water, you can.
Oh wow! I've heard that on Indian music.
And
Pakistani music.
And then you can, it's from the rural areas. Goes into Rajasthan on the Indian side, I think, the province Rajasthan or the state, and. This top is the bass and the sides of the treble. So,
excellent.
Yeah, water as well as percussion. So you got multi-purpose.
And you also have a traditional instrument, stringed instrument?
Yes, all these instruments are instruments I'm essentially learning to play.
Yes.
But this one is a beauty. I love it. It's called the rabab. The rabab is a folk instrument from the northwestern or KP or the troubled area, as the world would know it, Pakistan.
I see. Okay,
it's close to Afghanistan. And this is an instrument from Afghanistan as well, but it reaches out all the way to the Punjab and into the Indian Punjab as well.
And these are resonant strings here?
Yeah, there are heaps of strings here. There are about, I think, 12. And they tune to all the notes of the scale, all the chromatic notes. And then whichever note you play, there's a string to ring with it. So, it's really big resonant.
Yes.
Huge hollow chamber here.
I see.
So yeah, so it's.
And is that got a pickup on it too?
Yeah, that's me.
You're experimenting all the time.
I modified it. First of all, when I was getting it, when I was in Pakistan about a couple of years back, there's a friend called Farhan Bogra. He's kind of brought the rabab back into Pakistani mainstream music. He's played a few fusion tunes with mainstream bands, and he's got a very good ethnic fusion band as well. And so he was kind of an inspiration. And my friend Taimur, who's a very good sarangi player, another folk, classical actually instrument.
So what's your aspiration with music now? You want to put out records and videos?
I just want to do the circuit, man. I want to do everything. I want to put out music. I want to do gigs. I want to play with people, find musicians to play with, and release music, do videos.
So much to find out, but we've got to go to a break now, and then after the break we'll be enjoying some contemporary music from Oman.
There's a difference between forgetting something once and forgetting it many times. There's a difference between forgetfulness and dementia. Talk to someone who understands. Call the National Dementia Helpline on 1800 100 500.
You're there when they can't sleep. You're there when they forget. But who's there when they're at school? Asthma can be serious. It affects 1 in 10 Australians and claims 400 lives each year. Does anyone at your school know what to do in an asthma emergency? Log on to asthmafriendlyschools.org.au and find out if your school is asthma friendly. Shouldn't every school be asthma friendly?
Every time you shop, the choices you make affect our community. It is important to select Australian products made by Aussie-owned companies. Our food security means quality and peace of mind. Your purchasing power keeps your dollars multiplying in our economy, keeping jobs, profits and decisions being made right here, which is better for your children.
So the next time you buy, look for the AusBuy logo. It makes all the difference.
Statistics show 1 in 3 girls and 1 in 6 boys will be sexually assaulted before their 18th birthday. Help break the silence on child sexual assault. Go to bravehearts.org.au.
Welcome back. Well, we're happy here now because Omar's got his son back and his family, and they're in Australia, in Melbourne.
Right, yeah.
So we're into the music and electric guitar.
Yeah, that's my main instrument.
Indeed.
I'm learning the folk instruments as well.
Yes.
I play a few traditional scales. I've been always wanting to learn them.
Very interesting they are. Yes.
But this rock and roll guitar is my main instrument.
Well, you can cross over, but you have used traditional instrument in a kind of a recorded with a looping sort of machine here.
Yes.
Pedal.
Like the percussion instrument, the gada, and some other hand drums I've used to loop some music that I'm going to play over.
Yeah.
I'm going to play guitar over those looped tracks that I've created at home.
Sounds very fresh and original.
So I'm going to do that, and this is just a folk song, folk melody from Pakistan, which I've kind of funked up with some riffs and stuff. So hope you guys enjoy it. That's the beat. Oh चंगी हाँ साहिब तेरी बंदी हाँ लोक जनन दीवानी लोक जनन दीवानी मैं रंग साया दे रंगी रंगी हाँ रंगी हाँ रंगी हाँ माई यार दी गडोली भर माई यार दी गडोली भर दी दी गडोली भर दी माई यार दी गडोली एक अला कोलो मैं डर दी एक मौला कोलो मैं डर दी हाँ माही यार दी गडोली भर दी सोने यार दी गडोली आहा आहा माही यार दी गडोली भर दी.
Wow, that is a different, fresh sound.
Cool, thanks. I'm glad you like it.
And you can build that up into performances. And so, how do people find your music? Or
I'm working on this track. There's a few tracks that are finished. There's it's all a multilingual compilation. It's some of them are in English. This one is Punjabi.
Yes.
There's another Punjabi folk tune as well.
All right.
That I've covered. I mean, this is covering it or writing a new arrangement for it, basically.
Gotcha.
There's some totally original stuff as well, which I write lyrics for and I compose myself.
Can you imagine doing this, you know, anywhere else other than here in Melbourne? Are we one of the best towns to do this?
I love doing it in Melbourne. I play with all these musicians that I different ethnicities that I never met anywhere else. I play with a Turkish Kurd musician. I play with a Lebanese percussion player.
Man.
I play with an Indian bansuri player now, and it's like a dream scenario for me. You know,
Indeed.
World music and rock and roll together. What more can you ask for?
Brilliant. Now, how's your family going in Melbourne? And is everyone, you know, engaged in school and finding work? And you're living in the northern suburbs?
Yes, we are. And the kids are going to school. They love it. They're happy.
So, what thoughts do you have of Pakistan now when you
think
about it?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. It's my home country. I can't.
It stays in there, in
there,
your heart.
Yeah,
of course,
I have a really warm feeling about it. I'm saddened by the situation that it's in now.
But hopeful for better things
for a better
in the future.
I hope.
Wouldn't it be great to go back and rock them out with this stuff?
Yeah, I want to someday. I'm going to start a crowdfunding campaign to finish my music off.
Yes.
And maybe tour Pakistan.
Wow.
The idea is to reclaim Pakistan from the bad things. Yeah.
Having recharged your batteries here.
Go back and get the ownership of the land.
You've been here a while now, and what are your hopes and aspirations for Australia, culturally, perhaps even, musically, or, can you see Australia's role in the world being greater?
Look, Australia's got a great multicultural mix happening.
That is a strength, isn't it?
It is a huge strength. I think people don't even, right now, people need to step out of their own community blocks that our community's created that hierarchical block within itself as well, and they don't come out of it, which is, I don't think that's fair to Australia, because you're in Australia, you should take your art and your music and your ethnicity and take it to everybody.
Be proud and show it to everybody.
Share it with everybody.
And
that's why I play
all
with
the multi-ethnicity too.
Yeah, play it with everybody and share it with everybody, and that's what's going to make Australia more beautiful. So,
Omar, thank you very much for coming in today. We're going to have a little bit more of your music, but I'm going to sign off now, and so please do join us again next time. I'm Rich Micallef for Migration Stories. Omar, please give us another piece and we'll fade out on it.
If you choose to drive when overtired,
you could ruin lives.
Someone else's, your family's, or your own.
Choose a power nap instead.
The right choice could save someone's life.
Proud supporters of safety in our community.
GMCU and Southern Cross Austereo.
We've all seen this one time or another. We may even have done it ourselves. But inhaling balloon gas is very dangerous and can be fatal. The helium in balloon gas acts as an asphyxiant, and when you inhale, it displaces the oxygen in your lungs. Balloon gas is safe in balloons and when you release it in a well-ventilated area and in a safe manner. So the next time you see some sucker about to inhale balloon gas, or you think it's going to be a laugh, stop and be gas-wise.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Alleluia. Om Mani Padme. Om. Allah.
Welcome to Harmony and Diversity. Norm Curry is my name. And today we're speaking to Brother Doug Walsh, who's a Marist brother, and he's the president of the St Vincent de Paul Soup Vans in Victoria. That's a fantastic undertaking, Doug. But before we get to talk about that, let's have a look at your faith journey. I think you joined the Marist order straight out of school, didn't you?
I did, yes. Norm, yes.
And what age were you then?
I would have been just finished matriculation, 17.
17, yeah. And what happened? How did they induct you into the Marist group? Did you do training or?
Yeah, well, I did some training, and it was the spiritual training for 18 months.
Yes.
Where, because I had chosen to look at a religious way of life, and through that training, we really gained an understanding of what our promises would be to the order, and then essentially, in a sense, to God, because I was certainly coming from a Catholic tradition, brought up very much in that Irish Catholic tradition from a mother and father, and I just felt that that calling to really work with youth and to assist youth.
And that calling, how do you think that calling, because that's a special calling, how do you think it arose?
It's a very interesting question. I've often been asked that, and people say, why did you choose to be a brother? And in a sense, I know it was a calling because the mere fact that I still am a brother indicates to me that. But it was really a friendship with two young men who said, we want to give this a go. And I went with them. And, you know, as life's gone on, they're great-grandfathers now, you know, but that first couple of years, I think it was important because of probably the friendship I had with them. We shared, we're also, at school, we were quite active in different sort of social justice groups. So I think, you know, that was the, I suppose, the initial ground that led me to my faith journey with the brothers.
Yes, social justice. What sort of issues of key social justice would have been around in those days? What were the prominent ones?
I remember we used to have with the Catholic missions in those days, and we were brought up to give our, in those days, pennies or threepences, going back a bit, isn't it?
Yes, but I remember.
To help the poor children overseas. You know, that little, particularly during our season of Lent, which was the church's season, that we would go without things to assist people. I think also we were very strong through the brothers at the school that I was at, is in looking after other people. And I gained a lot of that from my family. I mean, Mum would never, if she found somebody in our little country town, didn't have something, that was her first concern. So it was that early training of looking after those who may be a little bit less fortunate.
Yes, yes. Yes, it's interesting how it raised in that family context. It grew from that. Were you a part of a big family?
No, we had mum and dad. I have two brothers, and a twin sister, and we lost a little baby at birth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there were 5 of us.
Yeah, which happened in those days. So, what age were you when you were doing this Marist training? That would have been 17,
That would have been,
18,
17, 18, 19.
Right,
and
19,
we did a little bit of teacher training in those days.
Right, yes.
And I came out after 2 years with a religious training, as well as with a certificate, primary certificate, from the Victorian Education Department. And then I was sent to Western Australia.
So you were a teacher?
Teacher,
yeah.
Primary teacher.
Primary teacher.
Yeah, I often say to people the best trained people are the primary teachers, even though I went on to teach secondary.
Yeah. Well, in many ways, the critical teachers are the primary teachers for kids. That's for sure. And so you went on to Western Australia to teach?
Yeah, I went on to teach. I think one of the motivations of joining the brothers is that I felt that as religious brothers we were called to areas in need, and certainly when I went to Northern and Western Australia, a number of migrants were escaping communism from Europe and had arrived in Northern, and obviously young people needed to be educated. A lot of the parents came from a Catholic tradition, so we had a very small school there, which had mainly migrant children. Their families were living in what they called holding camps, an old army camp in Northern, 60 kilometres out of Perth, and the dads were sent to work, and the children would come. In those days, we had no government assistance, so the dads would come and do a lot of work around the school in the weekends when they came home. The mothers would actually bring our meals up to schools. So as a young person in their 20s, I really learned from them the hardship that they had suffered. I mean, and it brought home to me when you saw the callous hands that the dads had, and dads would say to me, "Brother, all we want you to do is to educate my boy. He will not do any hard work. He will not have to suffer." And yet there was that strong belief that they were thankful to God that they were able to come out here, and yet they had nothing.
Yeah, it's beautiful and a big lesson in social justice there. We will need to take a break. We'll be right back.
If a man's home is his castle, his shed is his kingdom. It's a place men can hang out with a few mates, build a few things, even if you haven't before, and give back to the community. No man should be without a shed. The Australian Men's Shed Association is working to provide a shed for all Australian men, and they have over 400 already. Visit your local shed, build your community and make a difference. Find a shed near you. It's time to give back.
We always liked to play chess together ever since we were little. He was always a better player than me. When I was diagnosed with Pompei's disease in 2002, I was told that my life expectancy was going to be poor, and my condition deteriorated rapidly before I was able to start treatment. My brother and I both suffered from the disease. But now I consider myself the fortunate one. My brother spent the last 2 years of his life in hospital. He didn't have access to this wonderful treatment that should be available to everybody. The world just keeps getting smaller as you progressively lose the ability to walk. So your world shrinks, and then gradually you realise, I haven't been to the supermarket in 6 months. I'm 59 now, and every year I can see my daughter grow up is a blessing. I believe my treatment's made this possible.
To learn more and help those living with Pompei's disease, register at australianpompey.com.
Welcome back to Harmony and Diversity. Norm Curry is my name, and we're speaking with Brother Doug Walsh from the St Vincent de Paul Soup Van Division. Doug, you were in your teaching phase. You were in Western Australia and then you moved around over there. But I believe you had a sort of equivalent to your long service leave, I guess. What did you do then?
Well, fortunately, having joined a international order, the Marist Order, I was invited to go with a couple of other companions, brothers, to study overseas and to renew and meet brothers from different countries. But on the way, we were encouraged to not be the tourist, in a sense, we were, but not to concentrate on that, and to visit countries that we used to term as the third world, which now we term as undeveloped countries. Fortunately, I had a friend at St Francis Church, one of the Blessed Sacrament Fathers, and he had moved to Calcutta. So I decided that myself and my companion John, another brother, we would head for Calcutta and stay with the Blessed Sacrament Fathers.
And so you're in Calcutta, and guess who's in Calcutta?
Yeah, guess who's in Calcutta at that stage. We knew that a number of young Australians were working with Mother Teresa in Calcutta. So we went to see the work that she was doing, and naturally I think what happened to me was that I really wanted to do some work with the really poor. I thought, well, if I'm a religious brother, that's what I need to do. Young Australians who were university students, young married couples were giving up their time. And so I said, the only thing I can do now is I better knock on the convent door, just in case I can see Mother Teresa. Now this was in 1975. So I knocked on the door and this little sister came out, and I don't like titles, but I used my title as Reverend Brother Doug Walsh from Australia. Thought that'd be impressive. The little sister said, I think Mother may have finished her siesta. And she came out to see us. And we had this wonderful half an hour with Mother Teresa. She would not speak of herself, she spoke about her work, and she said to me, now, brother, what I want you to do tomorrow morning is to be at a certain station at 6 a.m. in the morning, and one of our brothers, the Mother Teresa's brothers, the brother Andrew, had worked with her. They're going out to teach in a slum area. So I waited at the station, was dragged onto this train, finished up in a slum area, and the Indian brothers were teaching the alphabet to these young people sitting on a muddy ground. And I was thinking, gee, in Australia, you know, we wouldn't be doing this. But I noticed that they the kids were saying A, B, C, whatever it was in Hindu. And I said, can I have the pointer? And of course I changed the teaching. And everyone was delighted. But while I was doing that, a crowd had gathered.
Yes.
And this lady, mother, brought along a little cup of tea and gave it to me to say thank you. And I said that was wonderful. And as I was coming back, one of the brothers, Mother Teresa's brothers, said to me, do you realise that that family won't eat tonight? Don't feel guilty. They appreciated you being there. So that really affected me. So I went back to Mother Teresa and I said, I think I should be here. And she said this, and I've often told people this. She said, brother, you go home. Where do you come from? I said, I come from Victoria originally. I've been teaching. She said, you go back to your own country and you find the poor. You find the poor in your own country.
That's right.
And you have to look for them.
Yes.
And as you know, later on, Mother came out to Fitzroy. You know, that sort of thing, yeah. That really, in a sense, I think because of that, I've always had that urge to go overseas, and I need to keep in contact with the material poor. But I've always, from that time on, had a real feeling for the poor kids in our school, the kid who's struggling and all that. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Yeah. And very sound advice, isn't it? Because there are those poor everywhere. So when was that? That was in
1975.
75. So 1975, you went on to have your study.
What happened was when I came back here, they appointed me as headmaster of a school down in Traralgon.
Oh, okay.
So I went to that school, I think by heart, and what I knew about the gospel was still over there, but her word's there. So I became very friendly with the headmaster of the tech school, high school, and so on.
Yes.
And we used to meet on a Friday night, and we were talking about a student that was going to leave primary school, and none of the schools said, I don't think we can cope with this young fella. And I came back and looked at the gospel again and said, I'm going to take this young person in. Now the young person came, and you know, in those days we didn't have the means to look after people who were, you know, I suppose in the sense he had a lot of learning difficulties, which we didn't really know about in those years. This would have been 76, and he stayed for 3 or 4 months, and I never forgot him. But he was a guy who came back years later, and I actually met him on the soup van in Melbourne. And he said, you don't remember me, do you? He said, I'm Johnny. He said, I want to thank you for helping me in school.
That's amazing.
And that really said something, you know.
Absolutely.
Said something, and that really started my other journey, which was to eventually come to Melbourne to work in education welfare.
And we'll
go to that in a
talk
minute.
about that. Yes, we need to go to a break, and we'll be right back.
Hush, little baby, don't you cry. Daddy's gonna sing you a lullaby. When you're sleeping safe and sound, you've got the proudest dad in town. I remember when I first saw you, your heart beating as you grew. We'll read you stories to help you dream. Your mommy and I are a perfect team. I can't wait to hear you sing, or watch as you put on a wedding ring. One day you'll have children too. Remember the times I sang to you.
Come on, fellas. Let's get down there.
Hang on. Where's Dave?
Oh, hey fellas. What do you think? Pretty cool, eh?
Real men look out for each other. Don't let your mates drink and drown.
This bank is helping to save lives. Every year, 500,000 Victorians have no idea where their next meal is coming from. Food Bank Victoria works with farmers, supermarkets and manufacturers to make sure their surplus stock ends up here, to be distributed to those in need. But all of this is not enough. Right now, this bank needs interest, your interest, to support Victorians in need. If you can help, visit foodbankvictoria.org.au.
Australian women need to care more. Watch out for persistent and unusual symptoms. It could be a sign of ovarian cancer. Know the important signs and symptoms. KISS. Look out for symptoms like abdominal or back pain, difficulty eating or feeling full quickly, or persistent bloating, or a change in toilet habits. If you're experiencing persistent and unusual symptoms for more than 14 days, see a GP. Make sure you KISS regularly.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony in Diversity, and Norm Curry's my name. And today we're speaking with Brother Doug Walsh. Brother, you told an interesting story about Mother Teresa, and she obviously, her words had a big impact on you. You came back to Australia. What happened then? What translated from the Mother Teresa experience?
I think that because I was teaching, and Mother's words was for me to find the disadvantage in your own country, I suppose what I really started to really think about was the disadvantage in the school that I was privileged to be principal of.
Yes.
And I realised that I couldn't assist people in there. They needed to have a little bit more than that. So I studied what community schools were doing, and I said, I really need to be able to change this. I think the other thing that happened to me was that, being a religious brother, I taught religious education. In a sense, if I was going to look after these marginalised young people, what I needed to do was to really, in a sense, be a gospel person.
Yes.
I think what Mother Teresa taught me, that the key part of her faith and my faith is to be a gospel person. You're the Christ figure out there. You're the person who's going to go out and you're going to work with them, you're going to spend time. And that led me to ask the brothers the order, could I come to Melbourne? Because we were setting up Morris Education Welfare Service. And I came to Melbourne, and with another brother, Brother Mark, who was a social worker, we established a little place out in Preston. And I went to mainly because of my background has been very much involved through my family with the education department. I went to the education department here, and I said I would like to assist young people between the age of 11 and 14 who are having difficulty with school, even not going to school. Now, through the cooperation of the education department, I worked with some of these young people. And to me it was, I suppose it was Mother Teresa's words that really inspired me to do this. The other thing that had happened to me was that while this time was going on, I was fortunate to spend a little bit of time in the Philippines, and I became involved with a group of young women who were working in the slum area, and I once again I had that material poor thing, But once again, Mother Teresa's words, come back to your own country. And what I did was, when I saw these young people who would go to school in Manila, who had the privilege of doing that, would come home and teach their families, that led me then with these young people who were really struggling at school.
Yep.
And Father Pat Harvey gave me a hall in Fitzroy, and I used to bring them into there. And then I got university students to come. I said, you people have been through schools, you'll learn about social justice, you've got a feeling for the gospel. I want you to come give me 2 hours and sit beside these young people and be patient. Mm-hmm. And I think one of the successes was that a relationship was established between the young university student and these young people, even though they misbehaved for a while. Immediately they knew that this university student would come in the next day, their behaviour changed. And it was that relationship that really built. And to me, that's the essence of the gospel.
Mm.
You know, that Christ would have that relationship. Yeah.
Yes, so that gathering that you organised, did that have a name? Did you call it anything?
Yeah, we called. Well, eventually it became, because I needed, the education department gave me special permission to start a school, and it became the Doxa School.
Right.
Thanks to the great support of Father Joe Jacoby from the Doxa Foundation.
Yes, yes. And so the Doxa School, how did you manage the kids? What was it? What did you do?
Well, I think the first thing that I knew, I had the passion for it and the heart for it. I needed to, once I had finance, I needed to employ a person who had a great understanding of the difficulties that these young people had, who also had studied and researched these. So Megan became the principal of the school. Now I wasn't able to assist them and to be able to individualise, just judge what they were, but I had the volunteers who Megan could direct, and Megan then had people on individual programs. So whatever so I wouldn't call it a disability, but that help that a person needed, whether it was Asperger's syndrome or something else, definitely that Megan understood all that. She understood what to do, understood how to relate to these people.
Right.
And it was individual, and in that sense it was very costly, but it made a big difference.
Yes.
Yeah.
So these guys with Asperger's, etc., that's a serious issue.
Yeah.
So it needed special management.
Yeah. And what we did was we worked very closely with both government and non-government schools, because we wanted to acknowledge that the teachers were doing their best in the schools. We didn't want to see it as a criticism of teachers, but as I found it with Johnny years ago, that you needed for a time to bring them out. So we used to bring them out of mainstream school for 6 months, and then they would go back, having picked up those skills. And Megan particularly worked with teachers.
Right. Yeah. So that's an interesting storyline that you tell, and obviously it set you up for what I'd very much like to speak to you about next week, which is the soup vans and the working with young people like that. Thanks very much, Brother Doug. Thank you for watching Harmony and Diversity. We'll be back again next week with Brother Doug Walsh. Bye for now.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu
My name is Logan. I'm 12 years old and I have Duchenne muscular dystrophy. My muscles are degenerating and I was put into a wheelchair 2 years ago. Soon I won't be able to move at all. The majority of people affected will not live past their 20s, including me. So we need your support to improve our quality of life until a cure is found.
Man to man, it's time to stop.
Stop the tragic waste of life and the destruction of families, including your own.
Stop blaming drugs and alcohol and believing that walking away makes you weak.
Stop thinking you're a hero and wasting your life behind bars, wishing you could take that one moment back.
Stop the coward's punch.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
And this was written at the time of the Serbian fighting in Kosovo. At that time I called it our loss in Kosovo, but since that's passed, but the fighting has continued, I just call it our loss. Shh. Did you hear? What? Yes? Tea, you say? Can we say and not fear? Can we see and not say? Men, women, children, just like us, you know, just like us. With eyes of sorrow, knowing all, no words, dumb, animal dumb. Still a smile for a child, dear now, never you mind. While they hold each other near, knowing but not saying their fear. Do you see there the men with guns? Do you see there the men striding to kill? Young men dragged from powerless love, tired eyes, sad eyes. The shuffling of women and children, the stumbling of the old, all herded from distant guns, from that shameful rock of blood, from that terror that once was home, to forget that grim task that some men do, leaving the valley of human grief, leaving the mounds of sorrow bleeding. Hush now, he is kind, sleep quiet now, my child. How to know their pain, dare I say I know their pain, to have your love taken from hungry arms and no sense given. Yet in my heart I do know some pain. To stand by a mother's empty bed and know once more that childhood nightmare dread, and see long ago one sleepy child fumble upon a darkened room where mother and all did one time laugh and now have fled and be alone. To be too late to see a mother dear, but to hear the chilling words of a sharp-tongued nurse. Taken to surgery, she did say. Do you think we can wait for you all day? To stand too late for words to bid her well, to ease her fearful heart. Yet to know my own sharp and bitter self-reproach, that too long away I sip my tea, from painful truth, pleading to be free. Now, O God, to see there those poor men and women, from home and loved ones cruelly taken. Yes, how can I know their dear heart's sorrow? Yet safely we sip our tea at end of day, while again the brutal heart of man does seek its prey.
Thought-provoking. I thought. I sat there and thought. I sat there deep in thought. I
thought about it a lot. I thought multiplied until I had more. I suddenly had too many thoughts, I thought, as I sat there and thought in my thoughts, as I sat there deep in thought in my deep thoughts. As I sat there, I thought about it a lot. I had lots of thoughts. My thoughts multiplied until I had more. I suddenly thought I had too many thoughts, I thought. Just try not to think about it. Just try not to think about it, I thought.
I at times get rather bored, and I write lots of letters to the newspapers, the local newspapers. They know me by now. So it just keeps me sane. Well, this is one letter here, and fortunately it's accompanied with a very nice cartoon. The text would explain the cartoon, but we've got a fellow here, a blinkered bandicoot pushing a trolley in Bunnings. So the letter that goes with that, it said, who are we? Have we still got foreign blighters locked up in those jails? Bloody disgrace. Australians, who are we? Born to buy at Bunnings breed of blinkered bandicoots? A pack of Burke's backyard potterers and hammer-wielding home decorators? What the devil did I do with my mower? Australians, what a boring, obedient lot we are. Independent? Oh, joking. War's on. Coming? Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. President. Who are we fighting? Does it matter? No. I found my mower, making love to my plastic Christmas tree in the garage. Now, oh, that's right. I've noticed around people walking dogs, it's become quite a fashion parade for both the dogs and the owners. So I wrote this little one, it's called It's a Dog's Life. What am I to do? How dare I present my poor fox terrier, Tommy, to the fashionable dog-walking set at Footscray? Tommy is not fashionable. I am not fashionable. Tommy is not cute, loyal to the death, but how can I nonchalantly chat with fellow dog walkers while Tommy, practically bald, half-blind, red-scarred like a butcher's chopping block under too many buses, tries relentlessly but ineffectually to splash one tree before I drag him away? We have a dog-walking crowd who actually dress up before appearing with their beloved canines at dusk, like rabbits. Dusk? I couldn't take Tommy out at midnight.
Kids and Hitler. Kids get a buzz about Hitler. 10-year-old girls from religious schools are not immune. And it's nothing whatever to do with the politics, though they do like Nazi, the word, that is, enough to splutter it, blurt it while grinning. It sounds like nasty, after all. And it's not a comment on Holocausts or intra-World War European history's fortunes up and down the scrambling slippery scales, although they know he had a zest for total worldwide domination, and that is good for a giggle. No, kids get a kick out of Hitler because it's fun to stick a finger underneath a button nose and pretend it's a silly moustache, and then to shoot the other arm to a snappy Heil in a Hitler salute. And yes, to watch as pious teachers and dusty parents fluster about in awkward disapproval. The crawling skin, you get them there with Hitler every time.
Are you playing renovation roulette? I'm John Jarrett. Now I know that deadly asbestos lies hidden in 1/3 of Aussie homes. It can be found in any home built or renovated before 1987. Lurking in walls, under floor covering, behind tiles, in roofing. Asbestos. It was used everywhere. So if you're a renovator or a tradie, you could be risking your life and the lives of others. Remember, go slow. Asbestos, it's a no-go. Visit asbestosawareness.com.au to learn what you need to know.
No one knows what to say.
I try and treat him the same as I always have.
He didn't want to give up. He just couldn't.
Caring for Catherine was tough, but when I look back, it was the best thing we ever did together.
It's hard to know how to talk about dying. These people know. If you need to know how, visit lifeanddeath.org.au and join the conversation.
Had enough of the bad news about carbon dioxide and climate change? Wood is one solution. Trees take CO2 from the air and store it in their wood. They're also renewable, unlike concrete and steel. But the wood you choose should be recycled or from certified plantations or forests. This helps protect areas of high conservation value. So next time you're building or buying something, make it wood and do your world some good.
I was diagnosed with Parkinson's at 27.
I was 46.
I was 62.
The first symptom I noticed
was loss of balance.
Was that I was always tired.
Was a loss of smell.
The most difficult thing for me is not to be able to travel in my retirement.
The most difficult thing for me was giving up a career that I loved.
The hardest thing for my mum was being pregnant with me.
This is of a local theme of a sort. It's called Cole's New World, a romance. There are two people, a man and a woman. The man speaks first. Let's do it. What? Here? Now? Yes, quick, get down the floor. But supermarket will be opening soon. They'll be coming in, all the shoppers with their trolleys. Come on, quick, we've got time. A Cole's New World special. Good chance, different here in the aisle. But we haven't finished shelving the cereals. Leave them, come on, we have time before. Oh, exciting this. Yes, go on, push mine, right up, yes, out of the way. Like that, see them? Just there, yes, like that. Oh, you know, with your fingers, each one at the same time. Oh, yes, round and round at first, near but not touching my... You know, just near them, but not touching, getting closer before you're touching. Oh, yes, just waiting for the delicious anticipation, just waiting for the touching of them before the, yes, bullseye, you mean, hitting the target. Oh, yes, again. Oh, I'm wanting it, teasing you are, punishing me by not, if I catch us like this with my showing like this, for them all to see. Oh, yes, so exciting. If we're caught, yes, if they come in and see. Oh, keep going. Keep doing it. Oh, slowly. That's it. Yes, like that. Oh, nice. So nice. Cole's New World public announcement. Shoppers, it is a condition of entry to Cole's New World that all bags must be presented for inspection on request. Yes, on request. Look in my bag. Go on. You must look in my bag on request. Yes, on request. You see, you must inspect my bag on request. Do you see them? Do you like them? Keep your fingers going. Yes, there, right there. Yes, like that. Oh, nice, so nice. Oh, go on, grab my, yes, behind. Yes, behind. Yes, like that. Yes, grab them, grab harder, squeeze them harder around there. Look, they are standing up. Hard they are, wanting to be touched they are, standing up they are. Yes, wanting, yes, go on. Here come my fingers, here they come. Yes. Walking around and around they are, getting closer. Yes. Here they come. Tippy-toe, tippy-toe, tippy-toe. Yes, tippy-toe. Walking around and around those, but not touching. Not touching. Coming closer and closer. Yes, they are waiting for. Yes, they are wanting to be. Yes, wanting your fingers to. Are they coming? Coming. They are coming. Here they come. Yes, coming they are. Coming to touch. Yes, touch them. No. Here they come. Coming, my fingers are coming. Closer. Tippy, tip. Yes. Tippy, tip, target. Oh, yes. Touch them again. Touch them. They must be touched on request. Inspect on request. Must inspect on request. They are wanting to be touched on request. My bag on request. You must inspect my bag on request. Touch on request. Touch them on request. They must be wanting to be on request. They are wanting to be. Touch them. Yes. Touch. Touched. Oh! I will go now.
Some of you may be familiar with this one, but this is my swan song, and I do it in a Pam Ayres type voice. Me pants. Oh, you never get me out of me pants. To get in, I do a nice little dance. I jiggle and wiggle, and sometimes I giggle. You could say it's like I got ants. I fiddle and pull the old zip to get them right over me hip. To lie in the bed, my face goes quite red. This way I know they won't rip. To me, they're like a second skin, though I prefer them from me neck to me shin. This way they would hide what's left inside and keep all me wobbly bits in. No dresses or short skirts for me, or gypsy girl frocks flowing free. I'd look like a whale or a clipper ship sail, billowing out to the sea. For have you seen what they want you to wear, those designers with strange-looking hair? Please use your noodle, for I'm not a strudel, layer upon layer upon layer. Designed for me body, not me clothes, as you peer at me down your nose. I'm sure you're smart and good at your art. Now designed for a bucket, not a nose. No, I think I'll stick to me pants. I'm getting quite good at me dance. And if I do my bit, I might even get fit. I think I just stand half a chance.
This one's called The Wonderful Life You Had. I don't recall anything significant you said or remember how your voice sounded. I hear of a wonderful life you had. Uncle showed me your medal from the war, also the certificate of bravery he mounted, but I don't recall you saying anything at all. Dad shows me how to make a bush bed. You taught him in the mountains where you made charcoal in the snow and rain. What a wonderful life you had. Up north is where you were wounded, in the trenches hit by sniper fire, but I don't recall you saying anything significant about that. You saw men drop dead from showers of poisonous gas because their masks weren't properly fitted. But I remember you, a tall and quiet man. When Mum and Grandma quarrelled now and then, I don't recall anything significant you said. I hear of a wonderful life you had.
People aren't laughing at my poetry so much lately, because everybody sort of has got me classified now as a serious poet. So here at the Dancing Dog, this is like my bedroom. So I just like to relax and have fun. So you've got to excuse me, okay? I wish I was a parking meter, standing filled with pride, counting out the moments till I get back to your side. I'd tick away from day to day, full of money bright. Each silver coin shines like the moon when you kissed me goodnight. And on my top a cut glass vase, so that I could keep all the flowers that are your words in tears that I would weep. And until you will return to me, I'll hold my red flag high, so that there will always be a space for you nearby.
When I die, let my dog serenade me. Thanks for your card from India. A lot of animal activity around Bubba's resting place. Like many, I am also somewhere in between drug addiction and a PhD. Perhaps learning how to recognise the jewelled mystery that falls from the neck of self. My son told me he dreamt about a land of small noises and imagined Shiva yawning. He also saw how Buddha's shadow continues to meditate with no body under the tree. I spit against the wind, a desire for afterlife, hands at the surface while the table tilts. Yes, I believe in life after death. Of course I believe that life will continue without me. We can learn to support the sky with dust, singing of faith like crickets in chorus. Death is a serenade by a dog licking a busker's watch and leaving 3 whiskers.
Australia is Adelaide Central Market. It's where I grew up hanging out with Mum and Great Auntie Kim. I see a lot of migrants buying ingredients that they need to cook dishes that remind them of their culture. And I think that's why food is such a powerful thing when it comes to people understanding each other. On Australia Day, I'm going to come to the market, buy some beautiful produce, take it home, crank out the pizza oven and have a little pool party with my mates.
Get together on Australia Day. Go to australiaday.org.au to find out how.
I want to get the word out to blokes about a little gland called the prostate. It's only the size of a walnut, but it can cause a whole lot of grief. Prostate cancer deaths pretty much equal breast cancer deaths. The problem is, if you wait too long, it may be too late. It took one of my mates. Don't make me angry. Talk to your doctor about your prostate, and if necessary, get it checked. You'd be nuts to leave it to chance.
So how have things been going?
When a young person is diagnosed with cancer, it affects their family, their friends, their entire world. Red Kite supports young people with cancer and those around them in real ways.
Yeah, hi, it's Michael. Yeah, I'm at the hospital.
We rely on your generosity to make a positive difference in the lives of thousands of families every year. We can't always make things better, but with your help, we can lighten the load.
When I first travelled outside of Australia, I went through Asia onto Europe, and before I went all those years ago, I bought a book called Love and Sex in 10 Languages. I thought it would help me out on my travels. And this piece was inspired by the parallel text that was very useful for me on that trip. And this piece is written in a Latin American salsa rhythm. Do you have the time? Sai l'ora, che ora são? Do you have the time? Do you have the time to play with me? Do you come here often? Vieni spesso qua. Você vem muito aqui. Do you come here often? Do you come here often all over the knee? Do you have a light? Hai da accendere, você tem fogo. Do you have a light? Do you have a light so we can see? Do you have the time to come to light? Nishi anma, chingshiji, and I'll come here often. ¿Quieres bailar? Charanga. Vamos a la cama, I like to tuck. Vamos a la cama, I like to be tucked. Vamos a la cama, I like to pack. Vamos a la cama, I like to be packed. En la cama, I'm flexible. En la cama, faccio di tutto. En la cama, eu so flexible. En la cama, I want to. Mira, el señor italiano, el santo de las teclas. Así se toca. Chupa mechicha, 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 chupa mechicha. Suzu, silk and bamboo, charanga, si me gusta. 69. Could you hold me? Dai non qua, touch me down there. Chinchidze, that's so good. Esto muito bom. Do that again. Acto adam, I'm getting close. Me voy a correr, I'm coming. Eres muy, you're great in there. Você muito gostoso, thanks you too. Non toi nancor, you're so. Come se carino, you're very. Wo aini, you're sweet. Agno, baby.
In past times, big proud boats slid upon us to sea, all strewn with silver diamonds. The tree of life stood in a nearby garden. On the wall, Helen stood immobile, yet all her gaze is fixed upon the stars. She has no thought for little wars, only for the stars. In past times, dark-eyed witches whistled up a wind. The knights, their horses proud, were brave and kind. All the forest leaves were russet fall. The village youths who shyly came to call had no evil in their eyes. In past times, ladies wore great gowns of silken cloth and kissed with dark red lips as soft as moth. High-voiced singers thrilled the music hall. The men wore straight black clothes and hats so tall they seemed to reach to the stars. The stars. Past times, like boats that slid soft past ere you were born. In old men's eyes you see where they have gone. Gone the stately dance, the midnight hall, and gone the vivid colours of that scene. And yet past times, my lady, did appall, for all those days were swelled with dole and teen, dole and teen.
Now, sex, I believe, defines life itself. From its very beginning, through its enjoyments and disappointments, to its ultimate and inevitable end, only to be reborn and rise again, if but as a rose risen above the grave. Sex, therefore, has got to be revered and practised fervently in pursuit of perfection. It is now 3. Just you and me. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Where's the cam to drive that piston through full revs and extend to climax? Climax? Pax? Peace? Now I've found my golden fleece. Did you say this stuff's enough? Or did I hear cry for more? Sorry, sweetheart. Wait till 4.
Little girl. The little girl was all right. The little girl was fine. Tight-lipped, defiant, not wanting to be touched or hugged with concern. She was fine, Mum, all right. The fall to the path hadn't hurt her. Not much. A bit of skin scraped off. Some blood about her legs. A bruise or two tomorrow. Not to fuss, Mum. That was embarrassing. The little girl was all right till she started to cry, howling to the heavens with tears of fire and rage. Older before you knew it, by 10 years yearning. The girl she had become was fine. The girl was all right, tight-lipped, defiant, not wanting to be touched or hugged with concern. She was fine, Mum, all right. The fall from grace hadn't hurt her. Not much. A bit of skin scraped off, some blood about her legs, a bruise or two tomorrow. Not to fuss, Mum. That was embarrassing. Older by more than years, the girl was all right, fine, till she started to cry, howling to the heavens with tears of fire and rage. And this time her mum cried too.
USPCA, for all creatures, great and small.
Joy, well-being, community, inclusion.
Special Olympics is a global movement for people with an intellectual disability, creating a world of inclusion and community through sport, where every person is accepted and welcomed, regardless of ability. One athlete, one volunteer, one family member at a time, helping to make the world a better place. Join the inclusion revolution by supporting Special Olympics.
And choose to include.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
This is Daryl McDonald from the Victoria Bulls Les Titans, and you're watching 15 Fabulous Minutes.
Well, welcome to another episode of 15 Fabulous Minutes. And if you've ever been curious of wondering what it's like to be a model, well, sit back and watch, because we're going to take you through all the steps here on today's show.
My name's Cameron McDonald. I've been doing it for too long. But you know, it's that adrenaline kick that you get when you're out there that just keeps you do it. You know, I'm getting old. Been doing it for a bit too long. But I mean, I just can't give it up. It's like a drug. You can't get out of your system. The highlight is the rider. It's all the sandwiches backstage and the free water. That's why I do it. The freebies. Otherwise, it's pretty soulless industry.
And you're from one of the Melbourne's top agencies, Cameron's, and basically, I mean, obviously you're going to see a lot of models come in and go. How hard is it to be a model?
Well, I think it's hard to be a successful model. I think that that in itself, apart from your physical attributes, it takes a lot of professionalism and determination and having the right attitude towards your work and about having the right attitude towards modelling as well.
So what happens if, for instance, anyone wants to get into it? How do they begin?
Most of the agencies have an open day, and if anyone's interested in starting to model, they should ring up all the agencies and ask them how they recruit their models. Most of us in Melbourne have an open day where we ask people to come in with recent snapshots, or if they've had a portfolio done, to bring that in so we can see how they photograph.
Is it better to bring in professional shots or just plain snapshots?
We generally recommend people don't go spending money before they have interest from an agency, because it's an awful lot of money to get started with the right portfolio, let alone the wrong portfolio.
It's a wrong portfolio.
A lot of people will go to photographers, anybody who can take a snapshot, but really what we require for a portfolio is someone who takes fashion pictures, shots that would appear in magazines. That we need something comparable to that, so that our fashion clients can understand how they can relate to their look.
Basically, I think it's when I get big ads, big money, that's all I'm interested in. Not the glamour, because it doesn't pay the bills, that's all I want. I think you have to look out for an agency that makes money from your portfolio testing. We always try and have the transaction, the monetary transaction between the model and the photographer that we recommend for them to do their portfolio with. Inordinate amounts of money for registration to be on their books. That's generally not how the major agencies go about things.
Okay, so obviously, you've looked at my portfolio, yes, you accept me or so on. What do you need from there? Obviously, what's called a comp card is the next step, would it be?
That's right. A comp card, a composite card, is like your business card, and it has all your statistics on it. It has 4 or 5 of the better shots from your portfolio that will sell you to, or be a good indication to clients about what you're about. Has your measurements, has your agency contact, and of course your name on it. The catwalk side of things is pretty exciting stuff, and generally the overseas catwalk shows are basically trade-driven, where they have buyers sitting and watching, and like wholesale buyers from department stores. Whereas in Melbourne, our parades are more retail-based, so the public are invited to come in and see what's going to be in the stores in, a matter of months.
Is it glamorous?
Oh, look, it looks very glamorous on the catwalk, and gee, they look great up there. But it's a lot of hanging around, it's a lot of waiting around, a lot of, tested egos, tested patience, that sort of stuff.
And how hard is it? Can everybody catwalk, or is it something that some people just don't have the walk at all?
A lot of people don't have the walk, but what we're finding more and more is that the focus actually isn't on the walking, it's on the look. So if you can walk a straight line, you can probably do some catwalk if you've got the right look.
How you doing? I'm Enfer from Cameron's. Question, how difficult is it being black in the industry? I don't know, because there aren't a lot of black people in the industry, there are not a lot of black people in this country, but from my personal point of view, it's pretty hard. I didn't really want to take me on a lot of people. I think I was a bit too outlandish, a bit maybe possibly too much hard work, but it sort of changed things around, it pissed me off a bit, so I thought I should represent for the black people. But I seem to be doing okay now. There's a few black people. It seems to be more when they need your quota black man or your freak kind of guy with a big hair kind of thing. It seems to be a bit like that. But a lot of the time it's just cool, you know. It's like, oh, you just get the job because you get the job. It's not really a colour thing a lot of the time. So it can depend, it's 50-50. But I'm doing okay, I'm enjoying it. You know, I think really it's up to the model. It's not so much a colour thing. Career, I wouldn't say I got a career considering I'm still pretty broke. It's going okay, it's rolling along. Plus go to New York, probably my next destination, probably where I'd really fire up. It's a large black population, a lot of work there for black people. But I mean, it's going okay as well as it can for the size, the population here and all that kind of thing. But I'm doing okay considering I never really wanted to get into this. It's just I got into it, and now I'm here and I'm trying to enjoy it the most I can.
Okay, so we're just going to take a look at one of the Melbourne's men's collection catwalk show.
Week. How did I get into modelling? I got asked out of school, and what have I got out of it? Money, yeah, that's the start. And what else? Chicks, nah, joking. Nah, it's good fun. It's good work. It's fun. I enjoy it.
I'm Judge Rod, you're watching 15 Fabulous Minutes.
That was a catwalk show there in the Melbourne style, of course, and now we're going to talk about a photo shoot, and we're also going to go on location. So how exciting would it be to be on a back cover of a magazine? Now, do the girls or the guys, for instance, get really excited about something like that, or are they pretty blasé about it these days?
For a back cover. Oh, look.
Or a front cover, any exposure.
Oh, look, I think most of the kids get pretty excited about a cover of a magazine, purely because of the exposure, and it works very well for them generally in the industry. I mean, there is such a thing as overexposure, and that can be detrimental, and that means you've got to go overseas or do something else for, you know.
Oh, that's a bad thing. Oh, how fly me to London, off we go to Paris. That's no one.
But generally, magazine work is probably the most prestigious. What we call editorial work is the most prestigious. Even though it doesn't pay you anything, the pictures are great and the exposure is very good as well.
Is that a bit of a myth? I mean, most people think, okay, I'm going to be a model, I'm going to make lots of money, or you're on a cover and you're thinking, wow, you must have got paid so much for that. And the truth to it is hardly anything at all. It's all exposure.
Absolutely. There's actually no money in editorial, or it's sometimes, or mostly even in magazine covers. You make your money in advertising work, but it's sort of like a bit of a follow-on in that to get your big advertising campaigns, they need to see you doing editorial work, and that gives you, that's like jewels in your portfolio basically, and that translates to a client that you are someone that works, that has a contemporary look for the season, and therefore they think they will then feel that you're suitable for their campaign.
What a show it was. This is the men's collection, so you've got Saba, AJs and all the rest of them, and that's what fashion's all about. So we'll go to another aspect of fashion, and that's at a photo shoot and modelling.
I'm a model, and today I'm doing a fashion shoot for a catalogue for a menswear shop. So a bit of a starter there. As you can see, I'm professional. Follow me, and we'll see what happens behind the scenes.
I'm a freelance photographer. Basically, this is a studio that we work out of. Now, if you want to come through and have a look, I'll show you where it all happens. Okay, as you can see here is where we're going to be doing the shoot for today. Other photographers do work from the studio, so that's why there's all lights behind you and so forth. Now, if you have a look over here, this is where basically the models are going to be, and we'll be shooting, probably take a full day to do this. There's about 20 different outfits, so it's going to be a good day.
Hi, it's Michael again. How you going? Well, as you can see, the wall paint's being pasted on, ready to go to battle. Little goes on, this kind of stuff you see happening all the time. A lot of time spent doing this kind of stuff before a shoot. You may think the shoot's going to be nice and quick and concise. The actual photos don't take as long as you think. It's a prep that actually takes all the time, because you've got to get it right and you want the best look. So hopefully we're going to make it.
Today it's going to be, as I said, a full day. We're shooting the catalogue for CM's menswear. It's going to be a hard day, but hard as in depending on how well we all work together and how good everyone goes.
A nice clean cut shine look, fairly much what's in at the moment, very natural, just a bit of gloss on the lips, which is quite big at the moment, and we have lots of guys coming in and buying our She Gloss, so we're finding that's great for us.
So how long have you been doing makeup for?
About 3-4 years now. I started off basically doing architecture, went to school for 6 years to do that, and then didn't like it once I got out in the real workforce, and went back to school, did makeup artistry, and I also did a few parades before I actually did my makeup course, and found that I really loved it.
So it's a real fun job, yeah?
Fun. It's fantastic. You get to meet so many people.
Well, here I am with Diane from Salon M, and he's doing the hair, and I'm scrubbed up. I've got one of the outfits on already. And what sort of look are you going for today?
Look, we're just going for just a very sort of natural, slightly unkept, but at the same time polished look. keeping the hair fairly sort of soft, free, loose, but, you know, obviously a style that's going to look groomed to an extent to go with their clothes.
So how long have you been doing the hair thing?
I've been doing the hair thing I'm almost in my 17th year, so for quite a while.
So what do you love about this kind of thing about the most?
Let me see, probably the people interaction, obviously the photographic side of it, the creativity, and being allowed to sort of express myself through my work.
Hi, I'm Vanessa. I'm doing the styling for our catalogue at CM. Today we're doing a catalogue shoot that is a concertina effect that will have all postcards. I'm actually doing some work as I'm talking to you. A concertina effect postcard. Thank you very much. Fabulous. We're doing about 50 shots of different sorts of things. This season we've got lots of colours coming through. As you can see, lots of khaki, animal prints, lots of baby blue again we've used, and we're using a highlight colour this season for most of our stock. Has got a bit of orange and lots of prints. Why am I a stylist? Oh, well, many reasons. I enjoy my work. Fashion, darling, love it. And I get to work with gorgeous models. Stephen, and more Stephen. Fashion shoot, jackets being creased, ties not sitting properly, heat. We're having a bit of an overheat problem as well, but we'll get there.
I'll have you deliver pizzas. Not till after 5:30. Okay, well I might send someone up. Can I just make an order? Can I get a large capriccio with no anchovies?
Can you get the Diet Coke?
It has to be picked up, so I'm sending this around.
Done for the day, and I think now we're ready to move on to what they refer to as a location shot.
So after 7.5 hours, and a 2-hour lunch break of shooting in the studio, here we are on location. Shoot, what we actually go and do is find a location. We're, I think, in the back of Richmond somewhere, and we basically shoot. Put some makeup on them, put the clothes on them, get them out there. Off they go. Beautiful.
Test shot is something we do before we do any of the film because we want to make sure the lighting is okay. Basically, we do Polaroids. We have to wait 2 minutes to see them and check the exposure and make sure the composition is right, and we read from there and we should go to film. That's great. I mean, it's really cool, but We need to play with it a bit. But are you happy where it's going?
Yeah. Yes.
The shoot, it went fantastic. Couldn't have gone better. The models were brilliant.
Each week, MELfeed.video presents the CEC Report. The Citizens Electoral Council of Australia presents a weekly program of political and economic analysis with policy solutions which are aimed at saving Australia from economic collapse and also suggest ways in which interested members of the public can assist in their campaigns. The CEC Report, coming up next on MELfeed.video.
I didn't think this could happen in Toowoomba. And then I saw it on TV that night. It really opened my eyes.
Whenever the community comes to us and says we need your help, we do whatever we can to assist.
It is a great feeling to be able to help your neighbours, to be able to help your community.
Each Lions member and each Lions club in different parts of the country, we're totally different. But we have core values that are the same. They remain the same for any Lions member and any Lions club anywhere in not just Australia but around the world.
Anything that you can think of that you want to do and support and help, Lions are doing it right now somewhere in this world.
I think Lions need to tell their story. They need to let people know the amazing things that they do.
The three major streams that we have in Lions are the community service that we do for the public, health and medical research, and the disaster relief.
We're out there to help people. If you love helping people, get out and help. Join a Lions Club.
We started this project about 20 years ago. All this gear would normally go to the tip. We recycle it and give it to someone less fortunate and where it is needed in the world.
Being a Lion here in Australia means that I can make a difference to my community. But most importantly, it's inspiring other people to get out and be part of their community and make it a safer and a much happier and better place to live.
Childhood cancer, I've always been interested in cancer and small children from the time I first got cancer 30 years ago. Research is an indefinite item. You can't see it, but it helps so much.
I'm here managing the money and the relationships, but other people are out there raising funds and bringing in community support. Without all of us working together, we can't affect change.
2 more extra hands at any function, any working bee, anything we do, 2 more hands can help us raise more funds, can help us serve our community better.
I went to my Lions Club and I said, I got this idea and I think it's a little bit crazy, but I think we could raise some serious money doing it. And it was to run 100 kilometres. And the club said, okay, if you want to do this, whatever you need us to do, we'll be there 100%. And I'm pretty proud to say that together we raised just over $16,000. So we blew the target out of the water, and I think that was due to a lot of the support that I got.
Through my leadership training and all that, I've learned about thinking global and acting local, and Lions Club are definitely that kind of thing. They act within their communities, but the money that they raise can often end up in any corner of the world.
As an individual, I could only do so much, and whilst it was my burning desire to try and help these people, having an organisation such as the Lions family to call upon to support me and those people that were working with me just made it possible for us to achieve so much more.
You know, after the devastation, to come back into the community, you know, you were shattered by what you saw. You know, no police station, no post office, no petrol station, you know, no kindergarten. There was nothing here.
And all that water with an unstoppable
I don't know that I've ever seen as much as arrived. There were fridges, washing machines, dryers. There was toasters, jugs, just everything.
To be invited to be a part of Lions just opened up a whole new world to me. A world that provided a structured organisation that could see that the hours that I volunteered could achieve so much more.
I think Lions is a wonderful organisation. The people in it have charity in their hearts.
I can go anywhere in this country, see somebody with a Lions badge, walk up to them and say, "Good day, you got a friend."
Never once in my life had I had a group of people where I could go to, say anything, and know that no matter what, they would be there, they would stand by me.
It's the family. That's what we call it. It's the Lions family. Without Lions, I think I'd be lost now because they've been my life.
We work hard, but the most is we have fun.
The fellowship of all the members of the club, the community, it's just a tremendous organisation to belong to. You know, I'll be here till I die.
It is extremely rewarding and gratifying to be a part of an organisation that can spread its support so far and wide.
More members means more hands, means more support to the community.
I would encourage everyone just to give it a go and see if it is for them, because the return that you get for giving to others is amazing.
Get out there, do something wonderful, be part of this fantastic organisation.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Welcome to the CEC Report for the 17th of August 2018. I'm Elisa Barwick, and joining me today is Robert Barwick, CEC Research Director. Welcome, Robert.
Thanks, Elisa.
And on today's show, how to fix Australia's banks before a crash, separation, compensation, incarceration. And secondly, our dangerous allies are the obstacles to peace and development. So firstly today, how to fix Australia's banks before a crash, separation, compensation, incarceration.
We have come up with a three-word slogan, Elisa, which is how you get things done politically in Australia. And after my week in Canberra, I'm convinced those are the three things that are urgent.
That's right. So the Royal Commission is rolling on, and it's really on a roll, and so is our campaign for Glass-Steagall, which we'll talk about today. We're also going to go through some of the latest updates on the financial crash, which is rolling right along very fast, which is why we need to get this process done now. We can't actually wait for the end of the Royal Commission. We have to get motion on Glass-Steagall through the Parliament.
How much more evidence do we need? It's all been presented, and the solution to everything that's been presented so far is break them up.
Mm-hmm. So we'll talk about a couple of the predicates from the latest week of hearings of the Royal Commission, which focused on superannuation. Now, firstly, the Commonwealth Bank, their superannuation trustee was charging dead customers, and their way of solving it was to notify people in the fine print that they would be charged for up to 3 months after death. That was their solution.
That makes it more honest.
Yeah. Now, the CBA's wealth arm, Colonial First State, has also admitted to some 15,000 offences in regard to superannuation accounts. And what came out in the hearings is that APRA did not prosecute the offences, but one bank representative said that she wasn't surprised about that and that they thought they had resolved the issues satisfactorily, which of course they wouldn't be coming up if
they did resolve it satisfactorily for the bank.
Yeah, for them. Now, the NAB was also on the stand significantly, and they, of course, were charging fees for no service on super accounts, fee gouging and not refunding tax surpluses. The superannuation accounts of NAB employees were actually earning 6.5 times the rates that NAB were giving to normal customers. So that goes to show what was going on there. Now, Nicole Smith spoke on the stand at the Royal Commission. She's the head of the trustee responsible for NAB's super funds. And she was being questioned by Assisting Counsel Michael Hodge in regard to these fees charged for no service on super accounts. And I want to play a clip here of where Royal Commissioner Kenneth Hayne intervened on that discussion.
Did you think yourself that taking money to which there was no entitlement raised a question of the criminal law?
I didn't.
Go on.
Now, what you see in that clip, Elisa, is Hayne is starting to implant in their minds, listen, everything we're talking about here, this has criminal consequences, right? You're talking about taking money for nothing. And also what you see is how foreign a concept that is to these bankers. What? There's something wrong with that, right? And then APRA and ASIC have allowed this culture to exist. All right, so it's pretty stark.
And in this next clip, Hayne is taking the gloves off. He's in an interchange here with the lawyer for Miss Smith, and the lawyer's trying to say why she probably shouldn't need to testify on this next subject area.
Bear in mind, these banks turn up with an army of lawyers. They have I spent a week with bank victims in Canberra. They get the banks use the courts as a weapon against them. They crush them in the courts. They just grind them down to dust because they've got so much legal firepower. So this is a particularly important exchange because Hayne is saying who's boss.
We fail to apprehend at the moment why this matter and the tender of these documents need involve Ms Smith at all, nor detain her, because on our instructions, her answer will be that she had no involvement in these matters.
You will not give her her answer, Mr Young. You will not. Do you understand me?
I'm not attempting to give any answer, Commissioner. I'm attempting to explain the situation why we think this matter ought not to detain Ms Smith.
Yes, and you will not indicate what answer you think she may give.
And in response to these particular discussions, one senior barrister referred to these fees for no service as literally theft, because that's what it is. And on the stand was also the NAB Chief Customer Officer, Andrew Hagger. His defence for it all was, quote, "We had a fundamental belief, which I still hold today, that customers tend to know whether services had been provided or not."
Now, let me say something about that. The reality is, with superannuation, we're all forced into it. All working Australians have been forced into this system. All young people, all they know is money's taken out of their account, they're in some super fund. They're not thinking about 50 years ahead when they're going to retire. Nobody is looking at it. They know that. Now, there's a bunch of older people that start looking over the details of their accounts, etc. But these banks know nobody's looking at it. That guy is being worse than a liar, right? This is the caveat emptor thing. It's let the buyer beware. You're responsible. If you're swindled, you're responsible yourself. But they know that a system's been set up for them to take full advantage of. The other thing, what you said earlier, sort of proves it. Where NAB employees for their own fund, they're getting 6.5 times what their customers get, whereas their customers are getting 2.5% less than any other fund that's not owned by a bank. Right? So what these traders are doing, this is what happens when you have banks owning super fund, anything, but the banks own them and they can set the fees in a way that don't get noticed, and that all goes back to the bank, right? And then, as Dr. Wilson's side pointed out in a submission to the Productivity Commission, they can do trading. They give advice to these funds, say, okay, we'll invest in this, we'll invest in this. Well, that involves trading. But the bank knows what they've just told their funds they're going to invest in, right, which they do. They can front run those trades. They go buy those shares first and then sell them on to the customers and make a healthy profit every time. They can't lose. And all that goes to their own money, and they just get to fleece and bleed and gouge and loot their customers with impunity.
And this is why, of course, that it's another element of the banking superstructure that has to be broken up.
The problem is the structure. It's got to. You can't say, oh, well, you've got to behave better. No, don't trust them in the first place. Break them up.
Yeah. And this is being discussed in the wake of this last week's session of the Royal Commission. The other thing that's being discussed is criminal charges. Now, The Australian had an article which indicated this on the 31st of August by Richard Gluyas, called Banking Royal Commission, Hayne Terrifies Banking Industry. And they quote an observer of what they call the gruesome spectacle, saying, Hayne is frightening the crap out of everyone. The entire industry is on its toes. This is going to resonate forever. And the article goes on to say that a director of a financial services company paused last week when asked if he thought Mr. Hayne was intent on scaring the daylights out of people, using the public hearing process as a battering ram to force cultural change on the industry. If that's the plan, it's working, the director said grimly. And then the author went on to say that those who know Mr. Hayne believe he will not hesitate to press for criminal charges against bankers where the evidence supports it. And many, the article indicated, are bracing for criminal charges. And then he also reports on the discussion about breaking up the vertical integration of superannuation management.
Yeah, so what I'd say to all that, Lisa, that is, so as far as it goes, that's very good. But for this fact, Hayne may be scaring the life out of these guys, but that's not how you fix the system going forward. You can't just rely on them being afraid, right? It's like, thinking, well, animals are afraid of man, therefore a man can wander through the jungle with impunity. No. They'll find a way. They'll always find a way. They're predators, right? So you've got to lock them out. And that's the main thing. It cannot be diverted into thinking, oh, they've had the fear of God put into them, they'll behave themselves from now on. No, that's not going to work. It has to be legislation to break them up, and that's what Alan Fells endorsed last week. The criticism, though, that's brewing of the Royal Commission is that over 6,000 people made submissions as bank victims. Of that total, 16 have been heard. Of the farmers, there was like 5 cases heard, and there's thousands and thousands of them, right? So this week in Canberra, when I was there, there was an event for bank victims, and most of them were farmers who came. 5 times the number that had been able to testify at the Royal Commission were able to give their testimony in Canberra. It was devastating. In future weeks of this show, we'll show some of those clips of what it is. And that's why the 3 issues are separation. You've got to, first thing to do with the banks, you don't have to wait, just separate them. Stop them being able to do this. Compensate the victims. I mean, these are terrible cases. And I have one proposal, just thinking out loud of how this could be done easily. Malcolm Turnbull should put his tax cuts in for all corporations, but then fine the banks the $17 billion that they're going to get, and that goes to the victims. Easy peasy, right? So there's no discrimination against the banks in terms of the tax cuts, but get that money back from them for the victims, something like that. It's easy to do. And the third one is bankers, around the world have to go to jail. One of our associates in Japan was in the Ministry of Finance there. In 1999, he had to reform Japan's banks and send his own friends, some of his own friends, to jail, right? In 2008, though, 9 years later, when the crisis happened, Japanese bankers were not doing the derivatives trading that they were doing in New York that caused the crisis, because they'd learned from the fact that a whole bunch of them went to jail in 1999.
Now, we have to take a quick break, but we'll be right back to keep talking about this shortly.
Most of us experience life's ups and downs, but we can always appreciate the finer details that make life worth living. But for 1 in 5 of us, mental illness can make us lose sight of the big picture. That's when Paran Mission can lend a helping hand. We've been caring for the community for over 60 years, finding a place for people with no place, Show your support and stand up for mental illness. Visit our website and make a donation today.
For over 80 years, the Royal Flying Doctor Service has been providing a mantle of safety across our vast land. Last year alone, they attended to more than 250,000 patients and flew over 23 million kilometres. That's the equivalent of flying to the moon and back every fortnight. Whether it's an emergency rescue, delivery of urgent medical supplies, or an air ambulance transfer to a major city hospital, the Flying Doctor is always out there for everyone. Let's keep it that way. Donations to the Royal Flying Doctor Service can be made online, by cheque or by calling the number on your screen now. All donations over $2 are tax deductible. So please give generously and help keep the doctor flying.
Show Me the Way creates the first social networking sites for Australia's Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander students. With secure online mentoring, Show Me the Way supports students to complete their schooling and continue to TAFE, university or vocational education. Show Me the Way connects students with e-mentors from corporate Australia. With secure online mentoring, Show Me the Way supports students to complete Year 12. To donate, visit showmetheway.org.au.
Welcome back to the CEC Report, where we're discussing the necessity to break up the banks before the new oncoming global financial crash. Now, in the context of what you were just discussing, Robert, about the bank victims that were in Canberra last week to discuss the crimes of the banks that have not, many of which have not even come up in the Royal Commission, there was a Senate resolution which was passed unanimously to extend the Royal Commission. Can you tell us about that and the momentum for Glass-Steagall?
Yeah, so that happened just after this bank victims event, and quite a few members of Parliament came into the bank victims event and watched these victims give their stories. And it's becoming an obvious point. Everyone knows that the Royal Commission has done a good job as far as it goes, but it's only touching the surface, right? And you could have, they compared it to the Child Abuse Royal Commission. Of 5 commissioners, there were 6 commissioners, 5 years, and 5,000 people got to have their story, right? So this is, by comparison, this is just literally touching the surface. So when it was actually Senator Fraser Anning who moved the motion, and that was a few hours before he gave his speech that got all the attention for the rest of the week. That tells you how the media works, by the way, because they much prefer to report all this controversial stuff, right, and exaggerate some of it. There's a lot that Fraser Anning said that I definitely disagree with, but the media like playing a certain game with it, right? Because the real story that was the more fundamental thing he did that day was move a motion that no one in the major parties was game to oppose. That tells you there's a lot of, this is a time when we can finally get some traction here, right? And we've got to turn that into policy though. And that's why Glass-Steagall is so important. So as part of that, people are starting to pay close attention to the fact that, the banks have to be broken up. So a few days before we got there, the Greens came out with their policy of total separation. Alan Fells has endorsed it. Members of Parliament have taken notice of all that, right? But we have to make sure it sticks. And that comes down to, let me again appeal to CEC viewers. Your persistence is important. One of the bank victims at this event became a friend of mine. He organised meetings for me and Wilson Site through sheer persistence, right? And because politicians will try and fob you off, or they're too busy or whatever, don't let them. And keep pushing and keep pushing and keep pushing and get this issue in their face at this time.
And you never know what you're going to get, because one MP that you mentioned from an unexpected quarter had said to us, now's the time to do this, where a lot of MPs are saying, oh, we'll wait for the end of the Royal Commission.
Yeah, no, don't wait.
So
and that's right. She said, it's got to be, let's do it now. Yeah. Because, as I said before, what other evidence do you need?
Exactly. And the other point, which we'll come to now, is the financial crisis globally bearing down, which we talk about a lot on the show, because nothing's been resolved since the 2007-08 crisis. In fact, it's all much, much worse. And the latest thing on the horizon are the currency crises that are breaking out in emerging markets such as Turkey, Argentina, We've had other currencies like the Russian ruble, the Chinese currency affected also. But the real story here is that you've had, since the 2008 crisis, a sea of US dollar debt pumped out through quantitative easing across the world. And its latest playground in the recent year or more has been these emerging markets that have put out various bonds and so forth and attracted that money. So they've now got quite a large debt. And what you see now that the quantitative easing is now being wound back is that that money is receding like the tide going out, and these countries are being left exposed. So the crash of the Turkish lira by 43% in 4 months, the peso and so forth by 33%, the big corporate debt that countries like Turkey have, which Europe is exposed to.
That's right, the European banks. One of the worries about Turkey, Elisa, is that it has $180 billion in 12-month debt or less. Well, that is a worry. It's also, if that's a worry for Turkey, Australia has $756 billion in 12-month debt or less, more than 490-day debt or less, and we also, in recent years, have had that quantitative easing money from America coming into our property market. So there's all the tensions on Turkey, but don't rest on your laurels. The same dynamics apply to us. Yeah, and speaking of the Australian housing bubble, of course, we now have the phenomenon of housing prices in places, the major bubble markets like Sydney, beginning to drop. We have a raft of interest-only loans that are coming due in 2019 to 2020. Moody's has stated that when these loans shift over to interest plus principal, the default rate is double that of when they were only interest only. There's a report from Houses and Holes this week that a Sydney agent is saying 50% of his clients are asking him to sell their homes in Sydney's western suburbs because now that they are switching to interest plus principal, they can't afford the mortgage. That's macro business, by the way, Houses and Holes for macro business. That kind of sale rate, forget it. The prices are just going to plummet more. Investor finance commitments are down, and there's a lot of investors who have been in this practice of buying big blocks of property to subdivide or sell, so they'll flip it at a certain point when the price goes up, and now they're caught holding something they can't get rid of. All of which is, the immediate impact is on house prices, but this is the looming disaster that our banks are heading into. The property prices crash here, the banks will crash on the back of it, and that's why, as we said at the beginning, fix up the banking system now, be ahead of that. Yeah, so call us, give us a call. We'll send you a free copy of our Australian Alert Service if we haven't already, so that you can find out more and feel confident to go and visit your MP. Keep hammering them. That's right. Now we'll be back just after this break to discuss another subject.
If you choose to text while driving,
you could ruin lives.
Someone else's, your family's, or your own.
Choose not to instead.
The right choice could save someone's life.
Proud supporters of safety in our community.
GMCU and Southern Cross Austereo.
I had the boys over for a barbecue the day before our final. Anyway, Steve rocks up, no beer, and he brought his model girlfriend. He was showing off, going on about how he kicked the winning goal in the semis, you know. I must have gotten a bit distracted and I put his steak on the same plate the raw meat had been on. Anyway, we lost the final. Steve had to go off sick during the game. I mean, it's not my fault. I mean, who brings their girlfriend to a bloke's barbie anyway?
Would your life be different if you chose to swim between the flags instead of that unpatrolled beach? If you'd checked the depth before you dived into shallow water, if you didn't swim under the influence of alcohol and chose not to swim at night, if you only listened to the lifesavers' warnings.
Make the right choice this summer. Enjoy our beautiful beaches. Always swim between the red and yellow flags. If we can't see you, we can't save you.
Welcome back to the CEC Report. We're now discussing our dangerous allies are the obstacles to peace and development. Now, on the 7th of August, Malcolm Turnbull, Prime Minister, gave a speech that was, for a change, conciliatory towards China. He acknowledged Chinese development would not inevitably lead to conflict and other such things, which was a good change in tone. But of course there was no mention of the sorts of policies that need to be wound back if he wants to put his money where his mouth is, such as repudiating our 2016 Defence White Paper, which names China as the biggest threat to the rules-based order.
To our rules-based order.
That's right. There were no discussion of any plans to scrap the foreign interference laws, which were clearly aimed at China, and no concrete moves to collaborate with the Belt and Road Initiative. It's all still just talk.
And the main reason, Elisa, that those three things you cited have to be wound back is they're not in Australia's interest. They're not our policies. They're things we're doing on behalf of our dangerous allies, the United Kingdom and the United States.
Which is a terminology that came from Malcolm Fraser, who referred to the US and the UK in that way. Now, I want to play a quick clip of Gavin Williamson. He's the UK Defence Secretary, and he made a speech at the Atlantic Council on the 7th of August. And he presented the concept, particularly since Brexit, but really after the GFC, that Britain has had of quote-unquote global Britain.
Can I warn people before they watch this clip? He ain't no Winston Churchill.
Yeah, so...
don't be fooled by the way he says it. What he says is actually very dangerous.
Yeah.
Don't be put off by his style.
And just to situate it, he's talking about the expansion of Britain's presence around the world in a military sense, in a trade sense, and in terms of influence. He talks earlier in the speech about using Britain's hard and soft power to extend their influence. He brags about their vibrant defence industry. He talks about how the UK is expanding its presence, deploying Royal Navy ships to the Indo-Pacific, increasing its presence around the entire world, and he also attacks China and Russia. In this clip in particular, he's talking about British troops being everywhere all the time, protecting people. Of course, if any other nation tries to expand its influence or put its military all over the world, you know, China has but one overseas military base. In this way, they would be absolutely denounced and attacked.
Threat, they're evil, etc. But we're just Gavin Williamson can say this on Britain's behalf, and it's all good.
So we'll just roll that clip.
First, we are ready to respond to any situation at a moment's notice. We have forward deployed forces across the globe. We can draw on our overseas territories in Gibraltar, the sovereign base areas in Cyprus, Ascension Islands, the Falkland Islands, the British Indian Ocean territories. These often provide key facilities not just for us but also for the United States. And we're extending our presence with our new naval base in Bahrain. We can also bring in allies other than the US as and when required, such as our 9-nation joint expeditionary force of like-minded Northern European nations, which can muster up to 10,000 personnel to respond to any type of operation. From humanitarian assistance through to high-end warfighting. Above all, our readiness comes from having world-class personnel, the embodiment of our global Britain, our Great Britain. More than 14,000 personnel deployed on operations around the globe, with 19,000 preparing to deploy or at readiness to respond. Being ready is only one thing, but the United Kingdom has that essential willingness, a willingness to act. The willingness to use military force when other measures fail. The willingness to operate where others cannot or will not go.
So as I said, Elisa, just because he comes across like an upper-class Frank Spencer, from some others do have him, what he says is actually very dangerous, and that is the threat to the world.
Now, Australia's actually in a crucial position here, which is why we have to make these shifts we were just talking about, what Turnbull should do. Because we're in the Asian Pacific region, this is where China, is unfurling its Belt and Road Initiative and beyond. So Britain has, of course, been making a major push to expand its influence in this region, which we've written about in the Australian Alert Service since the GFC, because at that point it could see that the only area of growth in the world was Asia, was coming out of what China was doing, of pumping money into real productive development and infrastructure. So Britain took the initiative to begin to monopolise the international trade of the renminbi, and of course its influence on Australia is therefore critical in keeping the world looking the way that it wants, keeping control.
Britain thinks geopolitically all the time. It's always divide and conquer, alliances, influences, etc. and not as a nation state, in a sense, minding its own business and putting the welfare of its people first. And just an important point, this week there was an agreement between the ASEAN countries and China for a framework of how to resolve disputes in the South China Sea. Left to their own devices, they can do that. They don't need American warships and British warships and Australian tugboats or rubber duckies tagging along with them, because we are the problem in there. They can figure these things out themselves, and that's what they did this week. And we've got to start insisting our country stops doing that type of thing.
Yep, and play a beneficial role. And you can read more about that in the Australian Alert Service, because that's all we've got time for. Thanks, Robert.
Thanks, Elisa.
Thanks for tuning in, and see you again next week.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV. Presenting the one and only, the fabulous, the stupendous. Welcome, dear viewers, to another thrilling instalment of
Told you it was fabulous. See you next time.
Thank you, Darren.
They say there's a chance I could die in a car crash. Maybe even from heart disease. Maybe even skin cancer.
I could die in a work-related accident, or I could die in a fight.
The fact is, the biggest cause of death for men in my age group is suicide.
Please don't let this happen to me.
You can do something. Lifeline believes that suicide is mostly preventable. Help us save lives. Find out what you can do at lifeline.org.au.
MELfeed Video is about to close operations for tonight, but we'll be back with you next Wednesday evening. In the meantime, here is a selection of programs that will be seen on our next scheduled web stream. You are welcome to visit our website at MELfeed.video for further details of this project. Until next time, from all of us at MELfeed Video, we wish you a very good night.